Welcome back to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, hosted by Patrick Morrissey, Chief Marketing Officer at Altify.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another edition of Revenue Optimization Radio. And we appreciate all of you tuning in on iTunes or iHeartRadio or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And we appreciate the feedback and the good ratings. So if you like this program, please recommend it to your friends and give us some feedback. And if there are topics you'd like to discuss, feel free to reach out to me directly. And today we're going to talk a little bit about futures in CRM. Specifically, we're going to do a little bit of forecasting and prognostication about the world and the marketplace that is the ever-expanding world of customer relationship management, or CRM. And to join us, we have one of the experts in the field here. We've got Nigel Cullington, who is the VP of Marketing for Upland Altify. Welcome, Nigel.
Hey, Pat. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining us. I wanted to get in touch with you because you and I just spent some time together with 170,000 of our closest friends at Dreamforce in San Francisco a couple weeks ago. And there was a whole bunch of announcements, per usual, from the Salesforce crowd, who are clearly leading the charge on and painting the future around CRM. So I wanted to get your take a little bit on Dreamforce, as well as get your personal take on what we should be thinking about organizationally. What do revenue teams need to be thinking about as they are making their plans for 2020 and beyond? But before we do that, before we get too far into it, give us a little bit of your background, as well as what do we need to know about Upland Altify?
Okay, thanks, Pat. Yeah, so Altify has been around for about 8 years. We're a combination of sales training, technology, the real understanding of how to make salespeople more successful. As a company, we've been based on Salesforce, 100% native. We provide a number of applications, but really, if you break it down, we're about delivering strategy, methodology, and technology, and working with our partners, our customers, enterprise level customers, to try and really help them drive their sales transformation and be successful in the future.
And you also conducted a panel and did your own customer revenue optimization event at Dreamforce. Who was on the panel and what did you touch on as part of your topic that might inform this discussion?
Yeah, so specifically, we did a session on account planning. Obviously, this is account planning season now. A lot of customers, a lot of companies are starting to think about, how they're going to model their account plans and their account structures for next year. So we hosted a panel at Dreamforce, and we were joined by Workday, Hexagon, and our very own Anthony Reynolds, CEO of Altify Upland. And yeah, it was really a discussion about how we have helped companies like Workday, who are planning big changes in the company, to help them drive their revenue model from, I think they said something like 2 billion. They want up to be at 4 billion, 5 billion over the next couple of years. And the way they're going to do that, Pat, is through account planning and really looking at or working with their customers on how they can put their customers at the center. So not selling products or capabilities or solutions, but really trying to understand what the problem of their customers is and how together, mutual value, how they can solve that together.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about account planning, or my guess is that's on your short list. But when me, all of us, anybody who's on the revenue team is concentrating right now on either trying to close Q4 as well as trying to make plans for 2020 and beyond. When you put your looking glass up and you start to think about plans as well as the customers and the market view that you have around not just customer revenue optimization but CRM more broadly as a category, give me your point of view in terms of key topics and key themes. And maybe we should start back to Dreamforce for a second, because I think this ended up being my 10th or 11th Dreamforce, and there was a whole lot of talk about customer 360. Both at the art of the possible for both B2B and B2C companies to finally have a holistic view of the customer, as well as some of the taking care of the bits and bytes and the heavy lifting to actually bring the data together underneath the covers to really bring the picture to life. That was one clear topic. Certainly there was a continued amount of energy around AI and Einstein and the art of the possible around predictive analytics and machine learning. And certainly one of the feature attractions now that the acquisition has finally been closed is a new horizon and a new feature around analytics with Tableau. Not that that's by any way exclusive to all the things that happened at Dreamforce, but certainly there was a lot of energy and there was a lot of feature around Tableau and data visualization and a whole new opportunity for analytics broadly on the Salesforce platform. That was kind of my takeaway in terms of some of the headlines and some of the feature attractions. What was your take?
It was very similar. I mean, we certainly heard at Dreamforce, and we've been hearing from customers and obviously partnering with Salesforce over the last 5 or 6 years. Their sort of vision around this customer 360 really in our world is around being the source of truth. So, CRM obviously is table stakes, and, we're native on Salesforce, one of the biggest providers of CRM. But CRM, does that deliver for sellers, for sales organizations, and indeed the entire revenue team, what they need to be successful? Does it really put their customers at the center of everything they do? And I think Salesforce and other CRMs obviously are starting to think about that customer centricity. So at its base point, CRM is a database. Mm-hmm. It's only as value as the information that you put into it, which is the sellers.
Sure.
We know that it's, we're a technology provider as well. We know adoption is one of the key things. So in a sales model or across the revenue team, if you're expecting sellers to spend their time doing admin and putting in data, and they're going to get less out of the system than they're putting in, they're not going to use it. So Salesforce would see that problem. Software companies see that problem. Unless you're providing more value to the user, in which case, in our case, the sellers, they're not going to use the system. So I think there's a big opportunity around this, what Salesforce is calling customer 360 and the source of truth, around the future of data integration. So yes, your CRM is probably your central hub. It's where you store all your customer information. Right. But if it's static, it's of less value to the sales guy. So I think there are opportunities now, and certainly we're looking at it on our CRO platform, but I think Salesforce and other companies will start to look at these opportunities around automatically augmenting that data. So if you think about the types of data that they could work with, so an inbox, an email inbox, mm-hmm. If you look at internet communities, where the data, where the quality of the data sits and where key employee information comes from, these databases or these inboxes or these other systems where you are interacting with your customer could start to be integrated and augmented in your data in your CRM. It's not about me as a seller having to key in. If I'm looking at creating a new territory, or I'm looking at some new segmentation, or I'm looking at going into a new ideal customer profile, as part of my revenue team, when we're starting to do our account planning, do we want to spend a lot of time sourcing that information when really it's available out there, right? And we can start to integrate that data. So if CRM companies can start to merge or partner with data processing companies, data warehouse companies, which I'm sure they're thinking of doing if they're not already doing, then me as a user, I start to be fed the information rather than me doing the administration to find that information. I think that's where the real value comes in.
Well, I think it does too, but it's interesting because you're describing data integration from an end user point of view. Mm-hmm. Help me get all the information that piece all the different nodes of information and access points I may have, from customer history to third-party data resources to what should be in CRM to even, do I know who's who in the zoo and what the contact record looks like in a way that helps me do my job, mm-hmm. as opposed to maybe the old world, we're going to plug the plumbing from system A into system B and it will suck less than it did before. But that may or may not be of any benefit to the end user.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Just static information, wherever it comes from, is of less value. But as you start to think around analytics and AI and recommendations, that's how that information starts to have value added to it and it becomes augmented. So not only as a user will I have data provided to me, but it starts to personalize that data that I'm interested in. And this is the same for customer and seller, where AI will start to deliver me the recommendations that I'm looking for. So if in the case that I brought up before, if I'm looking at doing a new segmentation in one of my account plans, then as the CRM start to work with data transformation and warehousing and getting the access to the data, the analytics and the AI engines are going to start to be able to push that information to me that's relevant. So it's not just that static list of customer name or customer contact record. Right. We have seen from the sales process that you use that this is a company that you would do well with. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of recommending to me my ideal customer profile on my behalf by looking at the data, looking at the signals, using artificial intelligence to push that and giving me an augmented view of what a new segment could be for me.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because that's several levels above just the next best action sort of an idea or what should I do next in a deal. It's what accounts or what segments or where do I spend my resources to go prosecute the market. So if data integration is theme number one for you in terms of future looking, in terms of 2020, what's next?
So I think, and we certainly see it in our markets, I think this evidence of marketing, sales, and the misalignment they have, and it goes further than just marketing and sales, but it is this notion of the revenue team. So when we talk about CRO, it's customer revenue optimization, but it basically means giving the ability to everyone in the revenue team. So that could be from planning to marketing to obviously sales to customer success and so on. Everyone that has a touch point with the customer should be able to provide the same value and generate new opportunities at every touch point. Mm-hmm. But that only happens if you align the entire revenue team, sales, marketing, customer success, and you're using same access to data. So I guess that comes back to single source of truth. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have your marketing team working in alignment with your sales team on a single account plan for a customer, then you're having two completely different conversations.
Right.
You may be speaking to different people in the customer, but they still care about the same things, and you're still trying to deliver the same value or more value to the customer holistically.
Yeah, that's interesting because I don't see as much activity around that as I would have expected. And I'm wondering how much of that is just a function of, particularly at Dreamforce, of Salesforce's architecture. Because they had the Sales Cloud keynote and the Service Cloud keynote and the Analytics keynote and the Einstein keynotes and the keynotes for the keynotes. Mm-hmm. None of those things are actually reflective of how do you orchestrate that customer journey or how do you align all those functional areas, to your point, around the customer and what are we trying to help them get done, which seems like a problem to me.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the point earlier. CRM is table stakes. You need that sort of data warehousing for all of your customer data. I don't think it's going to be down to the likes of Salesforce or other CRMs to evolve where the customer journey needs to be. I mean, that's why we're spearheading customer revenue optimization as a new category, but it's not a category of one. This is about us working with other partners in the ecosystem that would have traditionally worked in different siloed areas like customer success, like marketing, and bringing them together. Either bringing data points to we call it single source, the pane of glass. Mm-hmm. Let's have a look at an account plan. But if it's the revenue team looking at the account plan, what other things might they be interested in? They might be interested in their NPS score. That could come from a different provider. It might be, from this account planning session that we're doing, we want marketing to run a new ABM campaign because we've surfaced new opportunities and looked at white space. So by having that conversation across the revenue team, by having an ecosystem build up, which obviously sits on top of a CRM solution,
right?
But breaking down those silos to say, if you believe that, putting the customer at the center is the correct thing to do, then you need to have a company focus on having a revenue team. So we are starting to see, certainly in North America, less so, but it's happening now in Europe, that sales is now being run by a CRO, a chief revenue officer, mm-hmm. who spans across sales and marketing and customer success. And that's the natural progression. And that's the way that we see the future of CRM, or really the evolution is CRO.
Aha. So the evolution of CRM is really moving towards customer revenue optimization.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, hold on to that thought. We'll take a pause to pay some bills here, and then we'll come back and talk about any other observations or your prognostication for CRM and beyond in 2020.
We live in a subscription economy. You're only as successful as your customers, and that requires a mindset shift from what's our strategy for the customer to what's our customer's strategy and how can we help. Focusing on your customers' needs and providing value in every interaction is critical to building long-term relationships and sustained sales success. The challenge for most sales leaders and their teams is their sales process doesn't match how customers buy in today's digital world. Sustained growth and sales execution are impossible because the revenue team isn't aligned with consistent process and methodology to understand their customers' people and their problems. Altify's customer revenue optimization solutions activates the entire revenue team with a combination of strategy, methodology, and applications to help companies deliver more value to their customers. The result is increased sales velocity, improved win rates, and increased customer satisfaction. With a CRO strategy, now you can effectively collaborate across the entire revenue team to win new business and unlock more cross-sell and upsell opportunities. Built natively on the Salesforce platform, Altify helps revenue leaders and their teams achieve sustained revenue growth and sales success. Visit Altify.com today to see how they help accelerate sales performance for some of the world's best sales teams, including Autodesk, Comcast, GE, Honeywell, Salesforce, Tableau, and United Health Group.
Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about the future of CRM, or at least the time horizon in 2020, with Nigel Cullington, who is the VP of Marketing for Upland Altify. And Nigel, when we left off, we were talking about the importance of account planning and customer at the center, but you had given a couple of points of view with regard to the increasing rise and importance of data integration, particularly from a what can the user do point of view. Number one. Number two, you mentioned the revenue team and really moving beyond just sales or sales and marketing in terms of activating the whole team around the plan. What else is on top of mind for you as you think about what organizations should be planning for, both at the business level as well as at the operations, at the sales, the technology level, or with regard to CRM going into 2020?
So I think one of the big moves, and we've seen it in our customers, but as a whole, everything's moving towards a subscription economy. We're not talking about Netflix and subscriptions, but if you think of customers like ours, maybe like Honeywell, who traditionally would have been probably a manufacturing company, but particularly in one of the industries that we work with Honeywell, where they're producing sort of power plants and things like that. In their old model, maybe 10, 15 years ago, they would be selling, whether it was smelting tools or whatever.
Or a turbine.
Turbines or wherever it would be. They would be selling product.
Yep.
But we talk to them now, and they're a good customer of ours. They were a recent CRO summit of ours. They're now talking about changing their model to become more of a services industry. So yes, they still need to provide products to their customers, but they'll also manage those products for them. They'll also manage the plants for them. They're talking about moving from single sales to multi-year subscriptions. I think our friend from Honeywell said that they were even thinking about doing 100-year subscriptions on some of these things. So as you start to move, and that's manufacturing, you wouldn't have thought would have been subscription.
Right.
But as you think about SaaS and cloud and software companies, obviously they understand this intrinsically anyway. But it's other companies, healthcare companies, are all moving towards this subscription economy. But if you're going to do that, then you need to consider about this customer lifetime. And if you're moving towards a revenue team, you have sales as your sort of centralized department on, once a sale has been made, then we have a customer.
Right.
But we've got to retain that customer. If we're in this multi-year subscription, you've got to win that customer back every year or every 5 years. It's no longer one and done. It's how do you continually meet the needs of your customer over the long term. And that's going to require, a whole different way of customer focused measurement. So you need to be able to, and you can, this is where the tools are going to come in and artificial intelligence and so on, about identifying likelihoods before they even happen around loyalty, potential for churn, referenceability. These are the big things that if we as a sales organization or a revenue team want to work with our customers in this subscription-based economy over multi-year terms, then we not only need to think about how successful we are with the customer in the implementation, but going forward for multiple years. And if we can use AI to start telling us about some of the trends that we might see, or likelihood to churn, or referenceability, and use tools to enable us to do that, then we're all happier customers.
Absolutely. And being able to have that lifetime value and really measure lifetime value in a way that touches everybody in the organization is critical.
Yeah. I think this is where, probably my fourth point on this is the artificial intelligence. So, Salesforce had Dreamforce, we're talking about Einstein, which they've had for a few years now, and there's some success really building there. And it's not just on the analytics side, Einstein. It's on the prediction engines, it's on natural language processing. There's lots of great capabilities that will be coming out from Einstein, but they're big investment in Tableau. So, that's the analytics side of the business. There is clearly a reason they've spent so much money on such a good product, but that's where the sort of customer-driven analytics is going to come from. And that's not only about internally looking at data modeling and data platforms, but it's externally as well. So for all customers that are using their CRM system, they can now start to use sort of predictive analytics. They can use AI to start looking at providing suggestions to the customer. We've looked at this for the last 10 years. We know now with the internet world that customers probably know most about your product, or certainly enough about your product when they speak to you. They're probably 50% through the sales cycle from the buying cycle on their end. They know what they want. What they want to do is be able to speak to someone who they see as a trusted advisor.
Right.
So whether you're a telco or whether you're a healthcare provider or wherever it might be, a customer may come to you, already knows the types of services that you can provide. They may understand what their pain point is, but it's up to you as the customer to really sort of see where the value is and deliver that mutual value. But if you can use predictive engines or analytics engines, and whether it's your web content or your digital presence, start pushing that information to, if you understand your customer profile, it's going to make their lives easier. They're not looking around for just the pure information. They're coming to you because they want a trusted advisor in their business to make suggestions for them.
Right.
I think that goes across to the sellers as well. So if you're looking at an account plan and you're looking at, okay, so I'm building a new territory, you want to be able to use technology to start to drive that information to you. So, gone are the days of a sales team sitting around a table and saying, okay, so who do we know in telco companies? Who's got a best friend that used to work at whatever? Who plays golf with whoever? Well, that's the old way of doing it. Now we can be smarter about this and use technology to say, okay, so you have customers in this space. Yes, you know him and you play squash at his squash club. But here are the other companies that are in that space that look exactly like this, and here's the best practice. You should be looking at these things. And this is technology helping us as sellers, as revenue teams, to say, we'll take the sort of the donkey work out of it, let's say, and we'll start matching. So not only will we see the future of artificial intelligence in the sort of the sales organization world start providing better information to customers in advance, but also helping the seller to understand how to widen their customer profile or how to move into new territories because of data that the system has seen before.
Right, as well as helping understand what do you do next and how to think about this.
And that's just the guided selling aspect. I mean, that really comes back to what Upland Altify does. If you look at that strategy, methodology, and technology, if we broke that down to sort of the three core areas that we work with sales organizations around, it's really around sort of account planning. So understanding what the markets are, where the white space is, how you grow revenue in your existing customers. It's around the opportunity management side of that. So maybe it's more a sort of account management. So once you've found those opportunities and you started to drive new opportunities through white space, you've still got to win those deals. The systems that we use are a guided selling methodology around that. So, it's been a long time now that classroom-based training has worked. We all know we grew up in sales worlds as well. When you were taught a methodology, you might remember it for 30 days.
Right.
And then you're either going back to a folder to look it up and say, what should I do? Our applications on Salesforce platform, 100% native, have that guided selling methodology already built into it. So as a seller, I'm in the system every day, whether I'm looking at my opportunities or my account strategies or looking at my sales process. And the system is actually telling me, it's augmenting my intelligence, where we go back to the artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence. It's guiding me on the next best steps. So that's great for me as a seller because I'm getting that coaching, and my sales manager probably doesn't have time to spend, certainly doesn't have enough time to spend coaching me. But if I can get coaching recommendations from the system, here's what you should be doing next step, and here's why, and it's in context of the deal, then I'm never going to miss a step, and I'm always doing the right thing, making sure that I'm qualifying the right deals, winning the opportunities that matter, growing revenue. As a sales manager, I have to worry less about spending my time coaching, but I want to be able to use the applications to, ensure that it's not predictive forecasting, but my forecasts are accurate. If my sales teams are following, a repeatable sales process, we know exactly where we are in a deal.
And everyone knows, particularly in big B2B selling, the magic of the process is repeatability.
Absolutely.
Getting everybody to do the same thing in the same way. So when you think about just replaying back what you talked about in terms of big ticket items to be looking out for and to be focused on in 2020, I captured data integration, again, from the power of Customer 360 as it reduces friction for both the customer and for the salesperson, which is huge. You talked about activating the revenue team, particularly in context of an account plan, the idea of customer-focused measurement and really thinking about the long-term plays in the subscription world we live in, as well as the rise of both AI and more broadly around analytics. Anything else that's top of mind when you think about 2020?
I think that's going to be the evolution. We certainly are encouraging our customers, our prospects, to think about this revenue team. If you really do have a customer-centric approach, then if sales and marketing and customer success are not working together, it's not going to work and the success is not going to be there. So certainly from a CRO point of view, we expect to work with a lot more partners across the ecosystem to drive that value to our customers. But I think in terms of the CRM system, so obviously for us, it's Salesforce, we will start to see them do these data integrations, do these customer-focused measurements, which we will support through the ecosystem and really utilize the power of augmented intelligence, analytics, and so on. So I think the world is changing. I think it's now moving in the right direction. And I think as more customers realize that, as we say, table stakes is CRM, but their investments in pure CRM are not going to drive the transformation they want. And they need to start thinking about focusing on all aspects of the revenue team, thinking about strategy, methodology, and technology, and moving their businesses forward that way.
Brilliant. So last question for you, because I know you've got business to do and customers to work with. Give me an example of somebody in a leadership position on the revenue team that you've worked for, worked with, seen up close, something you learned from them that, is a good rule for the road or something you take with you as part of your daily management.
So, I mean, I could probably go back a few years, but I won't, because this was literally, 2 weeks ago at Dreamforce. Anthony Reynolds, our CEO, one of the big things that he says, and let's see if I can get this quoted correctly, but you can't change what you don't measure. Mm-hmm. And that's everything. So if you're going to try and do anything, whether it's in marketing, whether it's in sales, whether it's in customer success, unless you understand what you're trying to achieve and you measure it and track it, you can't see the improvements. So we certainly, in the marketing team, we live by those rules. The sales guys in our sales leaders in our operations, they follow those rules. And certainly for anyone that wants to be successful in a revenue team, sales organization, or whatever, you can't improve what you don't measure. So start measuring everything and we'll help you improve it.
Fantastic. Well, with that, I will let you get back to work. If people want to find you, what's the easiest way to get in touch with you?
Come to Altify, altify.com, or contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, Nigel Cullington. You'll find me. I'm the only one there. Look forward to meetings to give you all.
Fantastic. Thanks for the time, Nigel.
Thanks, Pat.
You've been listening to another episode of Revenue Optimization Radio, brought to you by Altify, right here on the Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.